the consensus, like I said, 2-horse race in the NFC East. However, my team that I believe will win the divisions, the New York Giants. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on them.
Yeah, I'm buying into the Giants too. I mean, if you look at them on offense, they're very strong overall. I mean, I talked about the Cowboys 3-man receiving group, but how about this one? Golden Tate, Sterling Shepard, and Darius Slayton, who really emerged last year as a quality playmaker as a rookie. I think he's poised for a breakout. Their offensive line is pretty strong, and they bolstered it further by adding Andrew Thomas to the mix. They have Evan Engram at tight end and Caden Smith, who they claimed off waivers last year and turned into a quality playmaker as well. Really, all this boils down to is, can Daniel Jones progress? And I think the answer is yes. We saw flashes as a rookie. He was really solid. He reminds me a lot of Carson Wentz. A lot of people bemoaned the Daniel Jones pick, but he was a pretty pro-ready prospect. The only issue he had was with turnovers that stemmed from holding the ball a little bit too long and, fumbling the ball and strip sacks. I think that was him trying to make too much out of certain scenarios. I think he's well positioned to, in the future, release the ball quicker, get the ball out to his pass catching weapons, get the ball to Saquon Barkley out of the backfield too. Dion Lewis was signed, so he has a ton of weapons around him. If the new coaching staff can get him to kind of speed up his internal clock, I think he could have a fantastic season. And I know both you and I have long shot bets on him to win MVP, I believe at 100-1 odds, both of us. So I mean, it's not unheard of for a second-year quarterback to make a massive leap. And when it's one who is as pro-ready as Daniel Jones was coming in, I think he has a good chance to improve overall and really lead this Giants offense. Now, their defense is a little bit more suspect. They don't have a lot of pass rushing talent, but they did make some upgrades to the secondary. They signed James Bradbury, who I think is a huge upgrade, gives them a true number one corner, something that they lacked last year. They're going to need some other players to step up, or they might need to sign Jadeveon Clowney if they can, either pay him enough or convince him that they can be a winning team. I could see him being a big addition there. But they also signed Blake Martinez, and that's going to be huge for their linebacker core because their linebackers have been terrible for years. Even when they won the Super Bowl against the Patriots back in 2012, I feel like there were some holes at linebacker. I think Chase Blackburn was there. So Giants are going to have some of their young talent step up on defense, but I think they're good enough against the run. It's just all about finding a way to succeed against the pass. We'll see if they can do that. They may need another cornerback or another good pass rusher to do that, but I think they have the pieces in place to surprise.
Yeah, everyone in the comment sections freaking out about their defense. I think it's going to be a lot better this year. You mentioned James Bradbury being the number one corner. Like, that's a huge upgrade over what they had. Like, Janoris Jenkins struggled last year. It didn't seem like he was trying. And they've had Eli Apple in the past, and he wasn't very good. But James Bradbury's a legit number one corner. So that's a big upgrade. They also drafted Xavier McKinney in the second round. I love McKinney. I thought he should have been taken in the first round. He only fell because all the safeties fell, really. But yeah, he's going to be another big upgrade at safety that they lost with Landon Collins. So automatically in the secondary, they're a lot better. You mentioned Blake Martinez. He's the best linebacker they've had in a long time. So that's going to help a lot. And people forget they added Leonard Williams during the second half of the year last year. Leonard Williams is a big upgrade for the run defense. The run defense was excellent last year down the stretch. The problem was that they couldn't stop the pass at all because their secondary was so bad. Now with Bradbury and McKinney and also Martinez in the linebacking core, they're going to be better against the pass. As you said, the edge rush is kind of suspect right now. They did add Kyler Fackrell, and I think that, it's not like a great player or anything, but I think he could be a solid role player for them. They still need a number one edge rusher, but he can be like a number 2 or number 3 edge rusher for them. So I think overall their defense will be a lot better. It won't be great or anything, but it will be better. I think it'll be in like the middle of the pack at least. And I think that's all it will take for their offense. Remember last year, Saquon Barkley got hurt in week 3 against the Buccaneers. And at the time, people thought he was going to be out for 8 weeks. That's what the medical report said. He came back like 3 weeks later, but he wasn't quite himself. And people kind of forget, I think, that 8 weeks after that, he was himself, and he closed the end of the season on like a tear. And it was the 8-week timetable, like all along, and that's all it took. So I think with Barkley being 100% for the entire year, that's going to be huge for them, and he's going to have a better offensive line from him. Andrew Thomas was a big addition in the draft. Will really strengthen the blocking, and that'll help Daniel Jones. As you said, his main weakness last year was protecting the football. And that's something you can work on. And he really showed some great flashes at times. So I think Daniel Jones is going to make a big leap in a second year. And speaking of second-year quarterbacks, like how many times are going to see it? Like Carson Wentz in his second year, the Eagles won the Super Bowl. Jared Goff in his second year, the Rams went from 4-12 to winning the division. Lamar Jackson in his second year, they had the best record in the NFL. Russell Wilson in his second year, they won the Super Bowl. I can go on and on. Mr. Trubisky in his second year, even though he wasn't that good, the Bears went to the playoffs and almost won the playoff game. I can list so many examples of this. And teams have such a big advantage with quarterbacks making little money now in the CBA that I think the Giants were able to sign some of these guys we mentioned earlier. So I think the sky's the limit for them. I think there's a legitimate chance they even win the Super Bowl this year. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. Now, granted, I think the Chiefs and the Buccaneers and the Saints are better than them right now for sure. But all it takes is a couple lucky wins in the playoffs, and I think the Giants will get to the playoffs. If they can get some luck in the playoffs, I think they can get there and win the Super Bowl.
And if there's one team in NFL history that knows about lucking into wins in the playoffs, it's the New York Giants, because during my life, they have ruined it twice in the playoffs for the Patriots. In years that the Patriots really should have won. And, it's part luck. It's a lot skill too. I'll admit to that. I think the Giants are a big time sleeper team. No one's really talking about them. And I think you and I agree that this division isn't exactly strong. Each team has some massive holes. I do think the Giants probably have to add a player on defense to get some wins in the playoffs. I don't know if they'll be able to do that. One thing to note for them, though, currently their depth chart does not have Marcus Golden on it, who I believe had double-digit sacks last year and is kind of an underrated pass rusher as a rush linebacker in a 3-4 defense. But at this point in time, I believe he will soon re-sign because they put some weird tag on him that hadn't been used since the Patriots used it on LeGarrette Blount. That's basically like any team that tries to sign this player has to, this factors into the comp pick formula. So I think Golden will be back, so that'll be a boost for them. One thing that won't be a boost for them is I'm looking over their coaching staff. Jason Garrett's the offensive coordinator, which could be fine, but he's there. Also, Freddie Kitchens is there. So hopefully Joe Judge won't be taking any head coaching advice from those two, and we'll just more be about, all right, you guys can run the offense and stuff, but listen to quarterback coach Jerry Shaplinski a little bit more in terms of how to do that, because we don't want the bad coaching practices rubbing off on Joe Judge there.
No, definitely not. But those guys have been good offensive coordinators in the past, or so maybe there's some potential there. I know you like Joe Judge, and I like that move as well. So I think that does bode well for them. They're 150-1 to win the Super Bowl on bookmaker.com. That's crazy. I think that's insane. I already bet them at 145-1. I think 150-1 is pretty close. But I'm still tempted to put a little bit more on it. Like I said, I like gun to my head, bet $1, as Kenny would say. I don't think the Giants will win the Super Bowl, but 150-1 is just insane value. This team is very good. I think they're going to be in the playoffs, and you can hedge once they get there at that number. All right, so we have the Redskins remaining, and you cover them. Go ahead. What do you think about this year?
Yeah, I think the Redskins are kind of in a similar boat to the Dolphins. I think that they're building in the right direction. I love Ron Rivera's fit here. He's kind of the exact coach that they needed. They needed someone to instill a culture, kind of fix the program there, because it's been for the last couple decades under Dan Snyder, it's been like one massive roller coaster ride. Rivera is kind of a stabilizing force, and I like what they've done this offseason. They've added a lot of competition to the roster. No real big name free agents, but a lot of smaller deals for guys like Logan Thomas, Kendall Fuller, Sean Davis, guys who can compete for roster spots and really just, take a chance on some guys. And if they pan out, they can re-sign them. If not, mostly short-term money. So they're not risking a whole lot. But if you look at this team, there is one massive strength. Their defensive line is probably one of the best in the league. It's right up there with the 49ers. Not a lot of people realize just how good the Redskins D-line is. They have 5 former first-round picks on there. Chase Young, Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, and Montez Sweat have been picked 4 consecutive years, and they're the long-term starters there. They also have Ryan Kerrigan, who's still a factor. He had his worst season last year and still put up 6 sacks, I think. And then they have Matt Ioannidis, Tim Settle, and Ryan Anderson, all really good backups, all who could fit in on this defense. So that group is elite and should generate a ton of pressure. The problem is the rest of the team has a lot of holes in it. If you look at their offense, they have basically Terry McLaurin, and that's about it. That's all that they have that's proven. Steven Sims showed well in the slot last year. They have some young talent at running back and receiver, but nothing really proven. Darius Geis could be a really good running back, but he hasn't been healthy for 2 years, basically. He played a few games last year, but he hasn't stayed healthy. And really how this team performs overall is going to come down to what Dwayne Haskins can show in his second year. Haskins has enormous arm talent, and he could easily pan out and make a big leap this second year, and I think he will. He just wasn't ready to start last year after being a 1-year starter in college. So I think he should be better, but it's a question of how much better, and how much better can he be with weaknesses around him. They don't have a tight end. They don't have a very good receiving core. They're probably only a couple notches above the Patriots at most. And their offensive line has big questions on the left side. If Sadiq Charles, who they drafted in the 4th round, doesn't pan out at left tackle, we're talking about Cornelius Lucas getting the snaps there, which Lucas was good for the Bears last year, but he's really just a big swing tackle guy. And their back 7, we talk about the Giants and Cowboys having weak defenses. If you took away the Redskins defensive line, things would not look very good, because they have minimal talent at cornerback outside of Kendall Fuller, who's a good slot man. They have just no proven talent there. Ronald Darby's on a 1-year deal. So maybe he'll pan out, but he's been toast and he's been hurt for the last couple of years. Landon Collins is back there, but he can't do it all by himself. And then the linebacker core is just a bunch of guys that you've probably heard of, but no one that has like a real role right now, other than Thomas Davis, who's 37 or 38 at this point. He's there to be a veteran stabilizing presence. So long story short, the Redskins, they have some talent. They have a lot of youth, and they're building in the right direction. But things are not going to come together this year. They would need too much improvement from Dwayne Haskins, and they'd need too many holes to be filled internally for them to be very competitive. I see this as probably, like the Dolphins, a 4 to 6 win team. But if they get to 6 wins, that's a good season for them. And that means that they're building in the right direction and playing hard under Rivera, something that never happened under Jay Gruden.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. I mean, I love their defensive line. I think they have potential in their secondary with Landon Collins, and if Ronald Darby could stay healthy, like a big if. But we've seen him play very well when he's been healthy earlier in his career. And then they got back Kendall Fuller. There are some pieces for their secondary to be good. I think Thomas Davis being on the field, he's obviously not what he used to be, but at least he's a veteran presence, and that's something they didn't have at linebacker last year, really. So I think that's a big deal. Dwayne Haskins improved in every start he made last year. I think people remember the first start he made. Well, it wasn't a start. He came in for an injured Case Keenum against the Giants, and he was just awful. But I think people forget that the Redskins were down 3 starting offensive linemen in that game. So it wasn't a really fair measuring stick, and Haskins had his struggles against the Vikings in the second half when Keenum got hurt again. But he got better every week late in the year, and I think that could carry over into this season. McLaurin is going to be better now that he has experience. I like Steve Sims. I think he has upside. We'll see if Darius Geis can stay healthy for once. Like that could happen. But the offensive line is the big issue. We'll see what happens with them. You talked about Sadiq Charles, their 4th round rookie left tackle. That's a big problem. Unless he can be great right away, which I kind of doubt. The left guard is also an issue, I think. And then you look at the right side, you have Brandon Sheriff, who just struggles to stay healthy. Morgan Moses struggles to stay healthy. So things could really fall apart for them. If both Moses and Sheriff go down, they won't be able to block anyone, and they won't be able to win any games. Conversely, if they stay healthy and like Charles is just below average, I think this team could win 5-6 games or so. So I think they're definitely going to be better than they were last year. but they're not ready yet. Like you said, I think they're at least a year away from being competitive.
Yeah, and to your point on Morgan Moses, he's constantly been nicked up over the course of the past few years. He never misses a start, though, so credit to him. But he's committed in the last 2 seasons 30 penalties. So like most teams, if that happened, they'd be like, all right, this guy's out on the street. But the Redskins had so many holes that they kind of needed to just say, like, all right, Morgan Moses has one more year before we can cut him with less than $2 million in dead cap. So we'll give him one more chance to prove himself. And who knows, maybe if he's healthy, it'll work out better. But I have a lot of doubts about the offensive line, pretty much outside of Chase Roulier, who was pretty underrated in my opinion. Everyone always yells at me and tells me he's terrible when I say that. But, that's just how people get about the center position. We have Juan is mentioning Antonio Gibson. He wants to see how they use Antonio Gibson. I'm also excited to see what they do with him because he was a one-year wonder at Memphis, but he was super explosive. I think that if he can find a role as kind of the Christian McCaffrey type back in this Scott Turner offense, that would be certainly exciting. I'm not saying he's as good as McCaffrey, but he can catch a lot of passes, and he's a guy I'm all over in fantasy as like a last round sleeper in PPR. Like if your commissioner lets you not draft a kicker, draft Antonio Gibson instead of a kicker. Of course, I don't let people not draft kickers, so you can target him in the 14th round too. So we'll see how he pans out. But I'm interested to see Gibson. I think he's going to be one of the more exciting prospects to keep an eye on for them.
Yeah, he'll take the Chris Thompson role, I assume, and there is upside there. We'll see. Maybe Antonio Gandy Golden becomes a good secondary receiver. So definitely a lot of upside with the Redskins, and I could see why some people would like them as sleepers. I just don't trust their offensive line. You mentioned Morgan Moses. Yeah, like he's always there. It just seems like they just copy paste Morgan Moses questionable on the injury report every week. Hopefully he can stay healthy for a change. That'd be nice to see. All right, let's get to the odds on Bookmaker. The Cowboys are the favorites on Bookmaker, minus 126. The Giants plus 1,800, which I already bet. Spoiler alert. The Eagles are plus 121, and the Redskins are plus 2,600. So thoughts on those?
I mean, Giants plus 1,800 is like unfathomable to me. Like, again, I get it. They may not pan out and they have some weaknesses on defense, but for them to be that far removed from the top 2 teams in this division seems completely asinine to me. I just think they have as good a chance at winning the division as those other 2 teams. I think they have a higher ceiling, maybe a lower floor than the Cowboys, but I'll bet on the high ceiling 10 times out of 10, especially at that price. So I'm all over that. I'm not looking to touch the Cowboys or the Eagles because this division it feels like something has to change in the NFL every year. And it feels like this division's like a pretty good bet for something to change, where it's been like Eagles, Cowboys for the last few years, kind of competing right up to the end, but never really getting further than 10 wins. So I'll take my chances on the Giants. I'm definitely going to bet that as soon as we're done with this podcast.
It's an amazing number. Like I said, I bet it already at plus 1,800. I that is the best number for the divisions we talked about so far. They're like easily, and they're my top team in this division, and they're 18-1 odds, which is just amazing. I will say though that as we get closer to the season, if in like whatever training camp we have, if there are reports that Sadiq Charles is looking great, and Dwayne Haskins is looking great, and Ronald Darby's healthy, like plus 2,600. It's not crazy. I don't like the Cowboys and the Eagles. So someone's going to have to win this division. And if the Redskins are a lot better than people think they are, I think 26-1 is a good number. I wouldn't bet it now, but if we got a lot of positive news on them, I think I would consider it.
Yeah. I could definitely, like, at that number, sure, why not take a risk if things seem to be breaking good? Again, there are just so many holes that have to be filled. So I'm still skeptical of it, but who knows? Maybe if the Redskins start doing well and, Ron Rivera realizes, hey, we need a tight end, or hey, we are a receiver away from really potentially making noise here, then maybe they can go out and get someone like, the guys we talked about earlier, like a Marvin Jones type or a Dante Pettis, or, tight end position. Seattle has like 17 of them. So let's go get Jacob Hollister. He's probably better than Logan Thomas. Just add some depth and weapons on offense, and maybe they might have a chance. So I don't hate it. I think the big thing is we'll monitor how Dwayne Haskins is doing this offseason. I think he's probably one of my top 5 players just league-wide to watch in training camp, because if he really makes strides, I think that he improves the Redskins by a couple wins. Whereas if he really doesn't make strides, the Redskins could have another top 3 pick. So we'll see what ends up happening there. But definitely a team to watch, a team that has more potential than I think some people realize.
Yeah, that's true. Like keeping an eye on the news is very important for this. You can get a great number if things change. Like let's just say like a player goes down on one of these teams who's not like a quarterback. Obviously, if Carson Wentz or Dak Prescott goes down, these odds will change dramatically. But let's just say Tyron Smith goes down with an injury, or Lane Johnson on the Eagles. Suddenly, Giants at plus 1,800 will look a lot better than it already does. So maybe you'd want to put even more money on that. So just keep an eye on these numbers and just follow the news. We'll have updates on this at walterfootball.com. I guess that's it for our season preview. Maybe next week we'll talk about how these teams will do in the playoffs and talk about our Super Bowl predictions. So so do you have anything else or anything to plug?
I got nothing else except hoping that next week my prediction will be better than the Falcons Steelers Super Bowl I picked, and hopefully it'll be closer to the year I picked Eagles over Patriots in June, which I think you also did. So props to us for that year of picking. But so you can follow me at Jacob Camenker on Twitter. I've got a bunch of stuff coming out at Rigo's Rag, the Redskins site I work for. I have a ton of tweet thoughts on Cam Newton as well over there, and some a statistical breakdown of him and Brady in the last 16 games. So feel free to check that out. Sorry, I'm not a graphics whiz. It's just kind of a souped up Excel table. And it took me far too long to make that, but please enjoy. Also, happy 30th anniversary to my parents. That is today. So hope you guys, when you listen to this, hope you guys had a good anniversary, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, happy anniversary to the Camenkers. That's awesome. It's a great milestone. That's awesome. And happy 4th to everyone else. Have a great weekend. It should be a fun time. You can go to walterfootball.com for all updates. Our season previews are coming to an end. We still have the NFC East to do and the Super Bowl predictions. And then we're going to cover the fantasy football a lot. I'm going to have quarterback power rankings as well, which I worked on. And I kind of have to change because of the Cam Newton signing. So I have to do that. Otherwise, please hit subscribe on YouTube. And just send this link out to anyone who might like football. I will talk to you next week.
All right. Sounds good. Talk to you then.